Alright, so I had to go to the Death Trap, buy some iron pipe fittings. So what we end up with is something like this. Where's the tape? So because the wall covering, tile plus backer board, goes to about the middle of the M here, that means I can put in a 3/4 inch board. I can screw this to a 3/4 inch board and have it nearly at the outside of the stud here, but I won't fasten the board to the studs, so that when I screw this in tight, and this is still flexible in and out like this, when I screw this in tight, I can get the threads really tight with Teflon tape, make sure they're waterproof before I fix the board into the wall here. And that way I can position this orientation correctly, make sure I got waterproof fittings, and I've got 1, 2, 3 opportunities to rotate. So basically I'll be within 1/3 of the thread pitch in terms of a good place to settle in, so that I can compress this pretty well against the tile, and then I can secure the board to the studs, and then this will be nice and solid, waterproof, and against the tile as close as it can be. That's the plan. All right, so these are the limits here. No, down here up to here are the suggested limits for this handheld. So it's going to go somewhere in here like this, and back against the wallboard. And I'm just using this now as a measure for getting ready to cut all the pipe that's going to run down along here, and it'll come in on the other side of this pipe and then up into here, and we'll sweat all that together, and then this shower plumbing will be done. All right, it's time for the big test. So I have these plugs here in the 2 guys. I got everything taped up, everything tightened. Time to try it out. Let's see if I turn on water, what happens. So a little bit of water out of there. Let me tighten that up. That's no bueno. Okay, let me tie this guy. Oh, leak. That's bad. That's why I'm doing this. It's in this little joint right here. Son of beach sheet. All right, let me close this guy. So far, that's the only leak. That's a solder joint. So these joints are good. This guy I had to tighten up. And this is leaking out of the top of this solder joint here. Stick it into the hole. Let me see what I can do. Solder it from above, and then I'll shove this in pretty quickly. And hopefully that'll take. We'll see. All right, folks, we're done with the pressure plumbing. I redid these to make them look more normal. I have to repurchase the valves, the compression fitting valves that go in the vanity, but at least these are all done and ready for framing the bump out wall here that's going to go behind the vanity. And then this stuff's all pressurized and not leaking. So that's ready for basically putting up the backer board. Next task is to do the electrical. So I have to figure out where I'm going to put the two light fixtures, because we'll have mirrors in here, and instead of the one big mirror we used to have. And I'll move these two outlets and so that they are wider apart. And then I gotta see what's up with that light. It might just be a burned out light, but want to get that working. And yeah, and then we'll we'll work on doing the other stuff, like the framing and the wallboard. All right, folks, so this is the last of the electrical. GFI for a heated towel rack up here and just above the toilet, and some blocking here, and I screwed some blocks to the back of the holes there where the heated towel rack mounts to, and then I made a frame around the switches here, or the valves here, so that we can put in a door, a nice low profile door that will allow access to these valves. Anyway, maybe I can do the wallboard here. All right, folks, I'm going to try and see if I can deal with the windows today. We got one there and one there. They came from Home Death Trap, and I hope I measured them all right. All right, folks, this is the window I'm replacing. Well, one of the two. So you see how much extra space there is. There's a little, none down there, none there, and just a little bit there. So I'm hoping that my 3-foot square window will fit. So I have to cut out the caulk around the window. So here's the caulk that I need to take out. I'm just using this fancy vibrating tool deal, and it's doing a good job. So the challenge is, this is aluminum right here, and this is vinyl. Sorry, you can't see my finger. This is vinyl, this is aluminum. So I'm trying to go between them. But if I have to cut one of them, of course, I'd rather cut the vinyl because the window's coming out. And then I'll have to nail the vinyl sideways into the trim, into the wood trim that's behind this aluminum. And you'll see how that works out. All right, what I'm cutting out is this vinyl flash. Of course, this window, when it was installed underneath this trim as a new install window as opposed to a replacement window. So it had this vinyl flash that goes along the sheathing, and you nail that in, and that's really the only thing holding the window in from a physical fastener perspective. So I have to cut this stuff to free the rest of this surface, and then you see this trim right here is aluminum, and on the other window it wraps around and actually goes in about 1/2 inch here, but because the installer of the aluminum wasn't able to stick flashing in between the window and the frame, he just terminated it right there. And so in a few places I'm going to nail with as close as I can to the edge this little flashing into this wood frame before I caulk between this and the window frame. Okay, I got the window in. You can see a little tiny bead of light right here. So that was my rough opening between the top of the window and the bottom of the frame on the outside of the siding. And so this window could not have been cut more lucky. I mean, there is nothing there. It is resting on the sill plate here. You can see a little bit of light there. And a tiny bit of light there, maybe. I mean, there's not a 1/16 of an inch to spare. So I gotta say, I really lucked out. This window actually went in easier than this one, even though the rough opening's bigger. I think just because the frame was a little tighter around this one, which is odd because the guy didn't put the aluminum in between the window and the outside frame. But either way, it's in. Now all I got to do is caulk, and then I've got to make the inside trim that brings the face of the window out even with the wallboard, so that you can then put molding on the outside. Well, on the inside of the house, but around the outside of the window. All right, time to caulk.